you've got to come to terms with, actually, you know what, I might have ADHD, I might. My biggest fear was it was going to take away my personality.
Football may have saved you, actually, because
Yeah.
it gave you that structure, it gave you that purpose.
I didn't put the diagnosis out there for anybody to like it, any comments, any of that. I put it out there because I felt like there's a stigma behind it. I took him to Anfield for the first time last year, and when we were sat there and he said, "Dad, when you come here, where did you sit?" And I was like, "I didn't sit, mate. I was down there."
Who do you think brought you out of yourself the most, or understood you the most, maybe as a manager
Harry.
or a coach? Yeah.
Harry.
Why?
And he said to me, "Don't worry about whoever we sign, you're going to start for me in the Premier League." Adult VAR after the Watford game.
Park life.
Yeah. I put that down to emotion.
But also it was a great moment. Hello, I'm Kelly Cates, and this is Not Just Football, part of the Overlap Network, brought to you by Sky Bet. As always, Christine Lampard and Hayley McQueen are here, and today we're joined by former Southampton and QPR striker, amongst other teams, Charlie Austin. Charlie, what I always find really interesting in people's stories is those moments where things almost didn't quite happen. And you went into professional football quite late on, didn't you? And there were all those opportunities beforehand where maybe it was Bournemouth and they had a transfer ban, or you were let go at 15 because you were too small, which is ironic given that you're 6'2" now. but all those kind of moments that lead up to a professional football career.
Yeah, thinking back to it, it's like some things, the way I see it now is things are meant to happen. And even I go as far back as my parents moved to Bournemouth when I was 18. And I've lived where I was for 18 years, all my friends was there, and I decided to move with them. I think back, I actually know for a fact if I didn't move, I'd have never made it as a footballer, because I was just from that place. It doesn't happen from people where I'm from, And I moved down there and the opportunity arose, and I thought, oh, here we go again, transfer ban.
Yeah.
Football. I'm just going to be a builder for the rest of my life, and
because that's what you were doing at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah, my dad's got a building firm, and then I just worked for him, and I was every boys and girls' dream, isn't it, to become a professional footballer, a professional athlete, and it was in touching distance, but for me, it just wasn't. It felt like it was never going to happen. So.
How did it happen?
I played for Poole Town, and I went in with Eddie at Bournemouth for 6 weeks. Again, like if I didn't work for my dad, I was never going to be able to get 6 weeks off work to go and train professionally, etc. He told me it wasn't like, we can't sign you, we want you to continue to play. And then I got a phone call from Swindon, Danny Wilson, saying we want you to come on trial, and took that with both hands. And the way I see everything that I've gone through is that I've got everything to gain and nothing to lose. And I think that's the way I took it all the way throughout my career. Everything was a challenge, but I had nothing to lose and everything to gain. Always looked as, if I don't make it at Swindon, the worst case scenario is I'll continue to be a builder and play non-league. Yeah. Swindon, well, if I don't do that, I'll just go back, Burnley. And that was the way I just looked at it in the football career. And I think that, listen, it's not held in bad stead for me, and everything went well for me so far.
Yeah. Most people come through the journey of an academy, don't they? And they've got that smooth transition, and you're prepped and you're prepared, and you make that transition through to the first team, or you go elsewhere, or you join out with other kids who've come through an academy. Did it feel very different for you when you were there, knowing that the others had...
Yeah, I was rough and ready, if that makes sense. I was rough and ready.
Grit, Charlie.
Yes,
grit.
determination.
Determination,
yes, that was
and
better.
grit.
But I think I played men's football from when I was 15. So when you see lads that was in there, played in under-18s youth football, and then played in the under-23. I was there playing men's football, and I was ready to go. But you could see how they was different to me, and they'd been taught differently. And I wouldn't change it. I know if we sat here now with people that come through the academies and made it, they would be saying, oh, it was brilliant, the best we've done, like stayed in certain places. But I wouldn't have changed it for the world for what I was able to go on to achieve.
Did it make your approach different though, because you did feel different?
Yeah, it did, and I think that's why. I was like, I've got nothing to lose. I'm going in there, all guns blazing, I've got everything to gain, because I want to do this, what I've always wanted to do as such a little boy. And now I'm going to go and grab it with both hands, and that was it. Did I stand out like a sore thumb at first? Yeah, probably, but then as soon as I got the opportunity, I was ready to grab it and take off.
But also there is that element of unpredictability for the players who are facing you. That when you come through the way that you did, you're not doing the expected.
Yeah, that certainly happened. So I was at Swindon with Billy Painter at first, and he had a good Football League career, and everyone used to just watch him and I was kind of left alone. I realised that as I got older, people used to mark me and leave the others. But I was left alone, and every time I got the ball, I just went on a hot streak and just scored for consecutive games, and it helped. It wasn't until like a year later where that changed. But I think that helped me, the unpredictability, whereas I always put it back to I had no fear. I had everything to gain, and ultimately I had nothing to lose, guys. That was the biggest thing. I had nothing to lose.
Yeah. And there were so many brilliant moments as well. You know, it's not just about going out and playing football regularly as a career. You had those real high spots, the playoff final, scoring against Man United as a Liverpool fan on your debut.
But that's the thing. Like, I've got my youngest son, AJ, and I would go back to going through things. I tell him that I played there and done this, and I took him to Anfield for the first time last year. And when we were sat there, and he said, "Dad, when you come here, where did you sit?" And I was like, "I didn't sit, mate. I was down there." So them moments, you know, like are amazing. And I look back, and sometimes you have to pinch yourself and think, like, I actually did live every kid's dream.
Yeah. Do your kids watch you? Because when my kids were smaller, and they knew that my dad had played football, and so they came back to me one day and they were like, "Do you know he's on YouTube?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, I do know he's on YouTube." And they were like, that for them was like the highlight of anybody's life.
Wow.
They were like, "Oh, he must have done it because I can get it on YouTube."
There's two ways to it. Like, I have all the kids and that, and they see it on there where it's like they can see YouTube, they see the TV. But I like the most is I coach the kids, the younger kids' team, my son's team, and they only see me as Hunter's dad, and that's the best thing. Like, yeah, they know I played football and I played for Swindon. They're too young to realise when I played in the Premier League and stuff, but they just see me as Hunter's dad. And then when they see me on the TV, they're like, "Oh, he could play."
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I do talk sense sometimes, kids. So I do know what I'm going on about. But that's the nicest thing. And I just, as time goes on, I do look back and think, wow, I was able to achieve that.
Do you ever have moments where you felt you changed your approach? You talk about you have nothing to lose. Did that change the more the better you got and the more recognition you were getting?
Yes, for good and for bad, Christine, like in the way, because the highs of a high, all right? And we go on to it when I've realised when I've retired, when I was diagnosed with ADHD, the highs are high, right? But the lows are very low. And that's just part and parcel of not just the ADHD or anything like that. That's part and parcel of sport. The highs are brilliant when they come, but the lows outweigh the highs, unfortunately, and that's professional sport. But you do have to change your ways. Did I at times? Yes, but did I do it to full capacity? Probably not.
Yeah. And you talk about diagnosis. That was 2023, wasn't it, that you were diagnosed?
24 last summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting topic, really, and it's very topical at the minute, isn't it? Lots of people talking about it. Clearly, lots of people had this condition throughout, you know, since the dawn of time, but no one knew what it was, no one knew how to deal with it. But here we are having discussions and conversations, and that's a big part of you being here today and doing what you do now, because suddenly you had this diagnosis which you have described as a superpower, and I've heard it described like that by many other people. I remember Sam Thompson, who was in the jungle, is exactly the same. But it's so interesting how you think, on reflection now, looking back throughout your playing days, how it affected you without you knowing that it was there. It was alongside you the whole time.
I think back, and I think that's why the highs were amazing, right? They was amazing. And when I look back at it, I realise with the lows when you're injured and not playing and all that, that's where you couldn't handle that. And I do put it down to not just that, and that's definitely not just to blame, right? But you have no routine. When you're injured, my job is wake up, go training, get changed, go across that white line, play. When you're injured, you ain't going across that white line to play because you can't. So your day completely changes. Then on a Friday when you play an away game, you're travelling to away game, no, you're not, you're going home, because you're injured. Like, that was a low. And then for people that don't struggle with that, yes, they're low and they're disappointed. But unfortunately, for me anyway, I took it the other way and was extremely low. And at times, I must have been an absolute disaster to live with for my wife and the kids. And even to now, right? Even though I understand the scenario that I'm facing, it's still It's still tough, yeah.
And you obviously go through the highs with your team and the lows with your teammates as well. Did you notice a difference with how extreme your lows were, maybe compared to others?
Yeah, but I think you only see that. You only see what other people want you to see, right? So when you're in their space and when you're at the training ground, etc., you see we missed the Carabao Cup final. I was injured, done my shoulder, and Virgil never played, and he done his foot. He got injured his foot, so he's out for 3 months. We never played. I see he was disappointed, really disappointed not to play, but so was I. The way he was disappointed and the way I was away from them was probably very, very different. Was very different, and I just couldn't control that. And I always look back and was like, oh man, I could never shake off the builder in me, and that kind of mindset, and that's okay, I can go to work and I can just go to the pub after and all that kind of stuff, when in reality, top professional athlete, and I needed to be a lot better, but I couldn't get my head around it.
Because that's the structure again, that's putting that structure in place outside of the training environment.
No, I'm not putting that, ultimately, I'm not holding that accountable at all. I hold my hands up and be like, yeah, it wasn't great at times, but maybe that was just a small part of the puzzle that I needed to.
What made you go for the diagnosis?
My children went now. I was like, do you know what, maybe that's me. But then also, my friends and my wife was always on to me. Like, that's going to be you. That's what you are. I was like, no, it's not. I'm 100 mile an hour. This, that, and the other. And then I done the diagnosis and went to see the doctor. I told my professional doctor, my private doctor, because I didn't even have a GP.
Because you'd had one at the club? I
had one at the club. So I didn't have one. So I went there first, and they said, right, go and get diagnosed and do the tests, and I'd done the stuff, and they come back and told me I got ADHD. I was like, oh, okay. And my wife's looking at me, see, I told you so. Like, I told you so. So it wasn't a shock to her or to my close friends.
Was it a shock to you?
I don't think it was a shock. It was more of I didn't want to agree with it. I'm okay with it now completely, and I was. But I was like, no. My biggest fear was it was going to take away my personality and who I was. That was my biggest fear. Touch wood, it hasn't done that at all. Even with the medication, that's not done that at all. But that was my biggest fear. But now I live with it. I enjoy it. I enjoy having it. Makes me the person that I am today, right? I see how my kids live with it and how much they grow. And ultimately, I see how my wife deals with me and the kids and how mad our house is, and that's really it.
When you said you did it because of your kids, because your 2 children were diagnosed with it, then you thought, oh, actually, that's me. Yeah. And do you think it helped them knowing that you have it, so you're kind of united together in this ADHD world?
Yeah, they know when I'm stressed. Now they're like, you had your medication today, Dad. But like, on that side, I know. So I take the medication in the morning. If I don't take it in the afternoon, then I'm getting fidgety now. I'm getting real, I want to do something. I need to do something. I'm going, oh, we need to do this, that, and the other. But now when I've got the kids there and all that kind of stuff, we're like a unit, like ADHD, superpower family, right?
So the family's almost taken the place that the football did, because the football sort of allowed you to, in some way, harness that kind of energy that you were having.
To the energy, but I think the alarming thing to my mates and my wife was in the summer. So we're, as you know, footballers, we're in a routine all year, season. You could tell you that Monday train, Tuesday train, off Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, game Saturday, maybe in on Sunday, probably off, right? That's it for the whole year, regardless where the schedule goes. Now you've got 8-10 weeks off. Yes, you've got to do your gym work and all that kind of stuff, and you're running when you're off, 2 hours in the morning. If I've got no schedule, then I'm sat at home watching, kids have gone to school, and I'm like, so what are we doing today then? Like, to my wife, what are we doing today? And she's like, don't worry about what we're doing. I've got stuff to do. You go and do something. And that was it. I think that was probably like the start of the alarm inside for it. And that was like the build-up of it all. And now I've retired, like I said, I thought I'd have more time on my hands. But now I'm full blast with the kids. I feel like I'm busier now than what I was when I played. So, but I enjoy it, and it's the best. Do you know what? It's the best decision I made in the summer to stop full time. It's also the best decision I've made to announce the diagnosis. Now, I didn't put the diagnosis out there for anybody to like it, any comments, any of that. I put it out there because I felt like there's a stigma behind it. That's, people have their opinions, yes and no, that's absolutely fine. But I wanted to let people know that sportsmen and women are not just these people that's up on Mount Rushmore and they can't be touched and they're not affected by anything, right? So that's why I done it.
You couldn't have played with the treatment, could you? So you'd have needed to get a TUE, an exemption.
Yeah, and because obviously I didn't have a GP,
yeah.
and from the NHS, because you go private, they don't qualify in that way. So that's why I had to stop.
Okay, so because it hasn't gone through the NHS, it's not recognised.
No.
Because Ravel Morrison tried to get a TUE and he couldn't get one when he was diagnosed with ADHD.
I understand like the scenario of it.
Because it's seen as a stimulant, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But ultimately, just because it's not shown and you can't see it, it doesn't mean people are suffering with it. Everything's been out there, and rightly so. Mental health and everything is out there, right? But also, this is a big thing also. And at times, I do think, especially where I've been involved and it's moved on, that clubs and club doctors do pry away from the ADHD diagnosis because they can't do anything about it. But I do always say, if you went to all the youth under 18s and even the under 23, so don't even ask the first team or anything like that, just ask them 3 or 4 questions that you would get. It'd just be like tick questions. I guarantee there is 50-60% players, because only going off of what I had of replies from players, but not only me, what was quite interesting was my wife got messages from partners, footballers' partners saying, I've just read what Charlie said and that describes my partner.
Do you know, we were talking the other day when Jamie and Gary's wives were in, when Nicola and Emma were in, and we were talking about how footballers love routine and they love a plan and they love to know what's happening next and they love structure. And that's, I wonder if there's something about that world, particularly at the very top level, where actually it attracts that kind of personality because it suits you. And actually the hyper-focus part of it, if you have that part of your ADHD, can be really helpful.
Football feeds it then
as well,
isn't it?
That football feeds it and
That's
you're committed to it. And that's the biggest thing. When you get that hyper-focus and you're stuck on something, and that's not going to beat me, I've got to do that. You go the flip side of it, but you don't have that hyper-focus, you're tidying up, and then you just do a little bit, and then, right, that needs doing, and then you're just moving around, and actually you've just made more mess.
And then you've emptied your kitchen,
and
you
made more mess than what you started, you know, oh my God, what are we doing here? So that's the scenario of it, but football is a big hole to it because it is fully structured. At professional level, it's fully structured, and you ultimately can't get away from out of them lines, really, unless you are injured, and then it becomes a different routine that ultimately that your mind can't really cope with.
What sort of advice would you give to someone then if your wife is being contacted, you know, by other players, partners, because they can't medicate presumably if they are playing professionally?
I said to go and sit, you have to speak to the club doctors if they're there, and you have to approach them and see what reaction you get back. Then I went private to the Oxford ADHD Centre and went there and done the appointment and worked that way. But ultimately, I think the toughest thing is the partners can say it, but you've got to own it yourself. And it's not a scary thing. I know it's easy for me to say because I've said it out there, right? But you've got to come to terms with, actually, you know what, I might have ADHD, I might. But then you're not going to get any reaction from anybody. And even if you didn't tell anyone, go and see if you get tested and see if that is. And if it comes back, no, this is where you are, absolutely fine. There's no harm in finding out.
So you weren't ever fearful of there being a stigma around it at all?
I was fearful of the stigma, Christine, because it's there, right? That there is. There's no getting away from it. It's still there, because even when we look all the way back, all it was when we was younger, with children now, when we was younger with the kids, there was naughty kids, bad behaviour. That's all you put it to, right? That was it. He's a naughty child in that class. naughty child there, and that
And
was
we all
it.
can remember it from
Yeah,
school
of course
days.
we can.
You know,
We look back and think, oh, God, he was naughty at school, she was naughty at school, but you just don't know because it wasn't there, right? So the stigma's always there. But now that's why I think I'm vocal on it. Yeah. And that's why I'm vocal on it. And that's why when Autistic FC got in touch with me about going there and doing that stuff, I was delighted too. And when I went to see Dan Franklin, is the manager and the one who set it all up, and I see these kids and I was just like, wow, you're amazing, mate, what you're doing for these people. Because ultimately what he knew everyone's story and they all didn't get a chance. They went into sport and then it was coaches. Mind you, coaches, grassroots coaches are ultimately just parents, right? Yeah. We're parents at all the thing. Someone just, they don't know how to deal with certain kids or certain situations. And this guy and his wife set up this thing and it's only growing, yeah, brilliant.
You talk about going private to the ADHD clinic there, and sadly, it's so difficult for a young person or anybody slightly older as well
I'm saying
to
that
get
I'm saying
a
that like
diagnosis now.
I'm saying it's like a private doctor. I'm very fortunate because of the football situation.
No, of course, exactly.
And that's the difficult side of it. Not everybody is there. And then
it takes so long, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I had families message also saying with the NHS have been waiting 5-6 years for a diagnosis with their child. We started the process when my child was 6, when she was in primary school. Now she's going into secondary school. So you've gone all the way through that. There's got to be something put in place because there is so much. There's so many families, I think, struggling the right word to use, in a situation that they need help with, because. Listen, they could have ADHD, they could have any part of the neurodiversity group. There's so many parts to it, right? But they need help, and families need help to succeed. And not only the families, the children, but also the adults. There's many more adults that's out there that are way into their 30s, 40s, 50s that haven't been diagnosed.
And you tell them to go and do it, even at this, because a lot of people, as you get old, you go, I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm fine.
You put things off.
And there's no personality change. There's no personality change. That was my biggest fear. Yeah. They'd take the personality. I think, if I've got that and medication, I'm not going to be the same person that I've always kind of...
How is the medication? What do you feel like on the medication? How has it helped?
So I take Equisim. So I tried them all, Ritalin, Equisim, and there's another one I just didn't like straight away. But the way they explained it to me was, so I could drip and tap. So I could get I could get loads of it, fast bursts, and it would slow release through the day, or I could put the plug in and then just turn the tap on and it just drips. And mine just goes all the way through the day. Instead of, so it helps me a lot.
Well, in what way? Like, what does it add? What does it take away?
It just helps me for the focus side of everything, and I can just relax and not be impulsive. I mean, who goes on holiday, goes to a water park and then decides, you know what, gets a phone call, 40 minutes later decides to pack up his family and disappear to the other side of the world? I mean,
hang on, what?
That's what I done.
Go on.
So I left QPR. I thought, right, we'll take the time, let's just go away and have the summer and just worry about football when I come back. So we're at the water park in Abu Dhabi and the kids are going around. My phone rings my agent. I'm like, okay, hi mate, you okay? Talking away, he said, yeah, the club. What do you think about Australia? I was like, no, I've never been. Very lovely. He said, yeah, the club wants you to go over there and play. So I was like, yeah, but I've never been. He said, yeah, they want you to see. I said, all right, listen, let me speak to the wife and I'll come back to you later on in the day. So okay. Spoke to her. 40 minutes later, I rang back and said, yeah, mate, when can we go? When can we go?
Had you spoken to your wife at that point?
Yeah, but only, what about Australia? Think about going. This is where we're going to Brisbane. We'd never even been. I didn't even go 2 weeks to go and see the place or anything like that.
We're halfway there. We're in Abu Dhabi. Yeah.
The thing is, we come back and obviously told people, they're like, are you really going? I was like, yeah, that's it, we're going. And then obviously, boom, we'd went. But the kids were still here with the grandparents and she'd come back and I was there on my own. And you think, yeah, lovely time on your own and all that kind of... I'm the other side of the world. Time difference is completely different. Do you know what I mean? It was like, that was just one of them sides of me that...
Yeah.
That was one of the most alarming things, I think, the impulsivity that come with it is, couldn't shake that off.
because it's such a broad diagnosis, ADHD, and people present in different ways, and people have lots of different symptoms, and it shows in lots of different ways. But everybody thinks that their way of perceiving the world is the way that everybody else does. And so there's that thing of going, well, if I get diagnosed with ADHD, is that going to change me? Because I just assume everybody's like me.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing. Everyone's different, right?
Yeah.
Everyone's different. Just because, like I say, there's a big broad spectrum of it, doesn't mean that you're any different to anybody else. Just deal with things differently and see things differently. And that's why I always say about the superpower. Your gift. Yeah. Just go through life differently. I understand people, right, that look at it differently, that have it and are quite inside and don't want to speak about it and are quite a little bit timid and all that. But I think go out and grab it. Like that, just you have to go take that journey the way that everyone's different, okay? But you have to go and take that journey, and that's why I want my kids to do it, because when we go through life's tough enough, right? So it's
if you have the support,
you can. And if you got the support and the right places, right things in the right places.
Do you think that's one of the reasons why you made so many moves in your football career? You kind of went back to clubs and then returned and went back again for another chance.
Comfort.
A bit of comfort, but equally you just on a whim, you've travelled up and down the country, moved all over the place and not really seemed to think much about it.
I think so. Like I made some crazy decisions in my time. I moved to Swindon to Burnley, but before I went to Burnley, I went to Burnley, I was at Ipswich literally the day before. I was talking the contract terms, all that was set up for a medical the next day, and I said, I want to sign for Burnley. Got in the car with Dad and my agent and drove to Burnley that night, didn't even stay in Ipswich, signed for Burnley the next day.
Wow.
Signed for Burnley. Then I was, I did well at Burnley, and then I failed the medical at Hull. That was a big disappointment, right, with my knee. I knew I had an issue, but it was fine, but I honestly thought that was it. Football's done, I'm never going to pass a medical ever again, I've got a problem with my knee. Nottingham Forest wanted me to sign for them, and I was like, no, I'm not going. Then I decided to go, and I thought, nah, let's go to QPR. Harry Redknapp wants me. Boom, straight down there. And
doing a Peter Adam Wingate.
Yeah, no, boom, straight down. I was straight down there. And then it kind of just, then I kind of slowed down a little bit to a degree. Then I went to Southampton, went to Southampton. But I think when I look back at like the alarming times of a bit of it was when I got on the rants when I went mad at VAR after the Watford game.
Park life.
Yeah. I put that down to emotion, right? I don't use that as that. I was emotional at the time.
But also it was a great moment. It was so brilliant.
Happened.
Like you don't feel bad about that, do you?
No. I look back and think, I think that guy who made that video, brilliant. Yeah. But I think, oh my God, what about that? I look back at certain moments and I think, yeah,
but don't we all?
Yeah, of course, that's what I mean.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
That's,
and it's hard to
but I'm not hiding behind anything, and I'm not
Exactly.
using that as like the thing. Just at times, I think maybe that was just my full impulsiveness when I was just
What do
away.
you think you were like to work with? You mentioned Harry
Disaster.
Redknapp, all of these other clubs, the Ipswich people, the QPR. What do you think they'd say about you?
I look back and I think, well, it must have been tough to work with. But I always put down because I care.
Yeah.
I do put it down to I care and I want to win. Football's tough. Not many teams win and continue to win, but I wanted to be the best I could. I cared. And when I was saying what I thought, it was because I thought it was with the best intentions. And I think sometimes it got misinterpreted that I was trying to cause a problem. But it wasn't. It was my best.
You just meant well.
Yeah, I meant well.
Now your managers
straight.
are like, the ADHD, that's
I was straight to the point. But
If anything, you were too honest.
I was too honest. That was my problem. I was too honest. But I wouldn't change anything for the world. You know?
Who do you think brought you out of yourself the most, or understood you the most, maybe as a manager
Harry.
or a coach? Yeah.
Harry.
Why?
Because he gave me self-belief and confidence. When I played all through the leagues and never played in the Premier League. When I went in the summer, I was in Germany with pre-season tour, and we was linked with all the players like QPR was at the time. And he said to me, don't worry about whoever we sign, you're going to start for me in the Premier League. And that gave me the confidence to be like, brilliant, I've got the backing of the managers to go on and play in the Premier League. And I was fortunate enough to do well for him. But he was the one that really boosted me.
I can imagine doing the old arm round. You can
Did,
come on,
yeah,
son. He's
did.
very good at that.
He got a brilliant story that he tells. He knows my dad's dad, and he was a manager of Tottenham, and I was at Hungerford, I think it was, at Poole Town, and he kept saying, "You got to sign my grandson, brilliant, really, he's like doing really well." And then Harry's like, "Oh yeah, who's he play for?" And he was like, "Oh, Hungerford." He's like, I'm trying to win. I'm trying to get in the top 4 and be in the Champions League. You're trying to get me on. So, and then he said, and about 18 months later, he said to him, I told you should have signed my grandson. He's like, who's that? He's like, Charlie Austin at Swindon. He said, I've just had a scout down there to go and watch him. And then obviously 4 years later, I was playing for him, yeah.
He should have listened.
Yeah.
He should have listened.
No, it was all right. It worked every step. But he was a great man to work for, and it's someone that he really, midway through my career, is someone that I needed, yeah.
I don't think you sound like you'd change anything about your career, but if you could go back and wave a magic wand and like not have the ADHD or have had would you do it?
No. Because it made me the person I am today, right? I wouldn't change anything. But on the pitch I wouldn't change nothing. Off the pitch at times when you're injured, a disaster. That's when I'd look back and think, I'd done that differently at certain times. But I look back and I think I'd never change it. Because I said what I meant at the time. I disagreed with people at the time because I care and I felt like I was having the right intentions to say what I did. But ultimately, I made a fantastic career out of putting the ball in the back of the net, really, and that was it. So
football may have saved you, actually, because it gave you that structure, it gave you that purpose, it gave you everything that maybe a job as a builder might not have given you, and you could have gone off the rails in a different way.
And I think I look at it differently. Yes, with my kids having ADHD, look at it with the children. But I think when you're out of that sport side of it, where you've got that structure, and I was a builder or something, I may have looked at it differently. Yeah, I've got it, but I'm not getting diagnosed. Might have had the funds to go and get privately
course.
diagnosed,
or be waiting 5-6 years.
and be waiting 5-6 years. So 100%, Hayley, on that. Yeah.
It's so great though that you within the sort of sporting world are so open and candid and willing to talk about all of this, Charlie. And I think we're hearing more of it, like we say. I mean, even Adrian Childs recently has spoken about it, and Tanya Barsley, Phil Barsley's wife, did a whole documentary for ITV about it. Sam Thompson. There's lots of people within different sort of entertainment type worlds that have a voice and a platform. And I think it's just so important because, like you said, Kelly, every story is different and everybody's sort of approach to it's different. And it's just so when I've got two, a 6 and a 3-year-old, who knows? You never know what's ahead for your children. So it's from an information perspective and just being able to grasp exactly what these different sort of conditions might mean. It's just so important for all of us.
Yeah, no, it is. And one thing I say to people is don't fear it. Adults, parents, don't fear it. Get as much advice, and the best advice, and ultimately the best advice you can go to is your GP, right? And to go and find out the information of what it is. I look back and there's so much you would never know, because ultimately it's not shown, but you'd never really know. But just go out and find the advice, and look, there's a lot of people out there to help, and there's medication. And don't be frightened of the word medication, right? People say, oh, you're on medication, there's alarm bells ringing. No, it just helps me on a daily basis, that's all, and that's it. Yeah.
I know what that feels like on the HRT.
Hallelujah! Charlie, that's not for you.
Just for us. Not a recommendation.
So what are you up to at the moment?
I play football part-time, Tuesday, Thursday and a Saturday with Titan. Then I reckon I am a full-time taxi driver. Yeah. Full sports coach, do the football with the kids. That's the best thing. That's right. And
you're a registered coach as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I do my own coaching and stuff. That's where I get my full enjoyment of. The tough bit is, like, in the days as such, we don't have that structure, right? That's the tough bit. Yes, I do the school run in the morning, brilliant. But from that period where the school's on, I'm like, what am I doing with myself? Yes, you can go and play golf. Yes, I can go to the gym. Yes, I can go play tennis, etc. But
are you good around the house? Because that would be very useful if I had Frank at home who could actually help me in the house.
I have. My wife says this. I know
you talk about gym and all this stuff outside of the house. You say I'm thinking about what goes on within. You've got 3 children.
Yes,
you have a busy
but I'm
house.
going
It needs looked after.
She's like this. I know when you're having a moment because you're round the house, boom, Mr. Clean. She says that comes short. That's so short bursts of them. But no, I'm a disaster around the house. And them school days, it's like, I have nothing to do. It's like the boredom bit, and that's when it really picks up, and you're like, oh my God, I need to find something to do.
Need to get something. Because doing your B licence, that was at that point when you were actually struggling to focus on doing it, wasn't it? So it's interesting now you've come, out the other end of that.
That helped me when I was going through it bits. Oh my God, I've got to write out coaching sessions, 18 sessions. But
there's much more to it than people realise, isn't
there?
The
so
reading
much
and
more.
the
But it was in my head, so I'm like, what do I need to explain it to you for? I know what I want to do with the cones and where I want to put the balls in the goal. Why don't I explain it to someone that's going to sit there and just read it? Yeah. I can explain it to the kids. I'll explain it in my way. And then when you're talking here, I would speak it, and this is where it kind of really alarmed me. So my wife, she wrote my my philosophy, but I spoke it because she was like, I know what to write, but you just speak and I know how to put it down so people will understand it. I think I wrote one page, but I was obviously speaking out, writing it, and she looked at it and was like, there's not a chance you can send that in. People ain't going to have a clue what you're on about, right? So she said, you do the session, speak out what you want me to do, and that was it. So I'd done it all like that. But it's good. Like, I have my under-8s HS team, and 5 of them are like waiting for diagnosis and stuff for it and all.
Do you see it in kids?
Yeah, I do see it. I think it's tough though. Like, I'm fortunate because when I was diagnosed, and I kind of know how to deal with certain things. Mind you, it doesn't stop you getting frustrated, right? You can't, as much as we come out of it and we go back to when we said, when we were younger, kids have bad behaviour, you can't hide behind the fact the ADHD thing, there's still bad behaviour happens, so there is a line, and sometimes they do cross it, right? So you've got to nip it in the bud, but ultimately they're waiting to see what happens and see what happens for it. But they're the highlight of my week, and spending time with them, and that's it.
If you see the red flags or little things in the kids, would you pull their parents aside and have a little chat with them? Or
yes, but it's almost like the parents, in fairness, just leave me to it. Okay. Yeah, the parents kind of leave me to it to understand. Because I think in the for me, I look in my scenario of it, the football was where I was hyper focused. I say to them, you're with me 1 hour a week. Like, this should be the fun time. You're out here playing football with your friends. It should be enjoyment. No need to mess around. And then at times, if you do get strange, of course you've got to speak to your parents. I had 2 that obviously parents that I'd spoken to, but it wasn't like, it was more on the behaviour side and the listening side. You can't do a lot about the distractions. Kids, they're 8-year-old boys, girls, everyone gets distracted, right? And that's it. And I have a girl that plays in my team, and I say to all the boys sometimes, I'm like, just be like her, just be like her sometimes, you know.
I was going to say, do any of your children show any kind of sporting prowess? Are they interested in any kind of sport?
Son, yes. Girls. My daughter's got to that age now, the middle one. She did all sports day, loved all that kind of stuff, involved with all the sport. Then secondary school, and then it's not cool anymore, is it?
So strange.
It's not cool anymore.
She can go back to it.
Yeah, no, that's what I said to her last night, being funny. I said, they're doing rugby or something at school, and she said, I need some football boots. I was like, okay, fine.
Yes.
And she's like, so I got the football. I said, I've signed you up. You're going to do football on a Monday night. Yeah. She's looking at me like, you're joking. I was like, no, like, man, I've seen them today, and there's like 8 girls there training. I'm going to sign you up. She's like, are you joking? I was like, the look of horror on her face. I was like, yeah. She was like, phew, Dad, I'm not playing football.
Yeah, none of my mates are doing it.
Yeah, that's it. None of my mates are football. Like, she's not there, but that's it. Yeah.
Can I just say as well, your wife sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I just have to give her a special mention. She does. Yeah, she sounds like a very special person.
She has to put up with all the things. Do you know what's quite scary? Like, on a personal one. Until I come back to Australia from Australia, it was the best thing I'd done. Right, was move over there. I was only over there 6 months. Before I moved back from there, I reckon I would have been an absolute disaster to live with. Because you go through that bit, and I was at the full height of my career all the way through, and I was riding the crest of the wave. Yes, lows, and my highs were really high, but ultimately it was all me, and that was it. Yeah, she was there, and ultimately she was the one that held everything together and all the glue. And then when you go away, take yourself away from the scenario, the best thing I've done, because I cut off about 85-90% of the people and things that I kind of got involved in. Because when you're out of sight, out of mind, then it really, ultimately, that's it. Then when I was the other side of the world, you only spoke to people that you wanted to speak to, or people rang you. It's only people that wanted to know how you and the family were. And that was the best thing when I come back. Like, it just made everything better. And I look back and think, oh, it's actually like, behind every man, there's always a stronger woman. That's
beside.
Yeah, beside.
I wish we'd have brought her in.
Yeah.
No, honestly. Do you know what the thing is? She got asked like a few times. She's like, no, I'm not doing that. I can't do that. She's like, I like being at the back.
Yeah.
She like being at the back.
What about, I want to know about what's life like now, like watching football as a fan. Obviously, you're a Liverpool fan.
Yeah.
Are your kids Liverpool fans?
Yeah.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah, like, it's brilliant. Like, my son, we watched the game on Sunday and he's with my dad and watched the game in 5 minutes. Then he's climbing on the sofa. Then he's in the kitchen. Then he's back in. Like, he's 100 miles an hour watching it. But I said to my dad, when we go to a live game, he's boom. Just like zoned straight into it. There's too much like going on in the house. But I love it. I love watching the football and all that. What's quite interesting is now, I see it with a lot of players when they finish, is I see the game completely different now.
Do you?
Completely
In
different.
what way?
We see everything. I was centre forward, so I'm only up one end of the pitch. So my argument is, get me the ball up that end, right? And that's
You're
it.
just waiting for that bit.
Yeah. But now when you're watching the football, I see the whole perspective of it. And what I see even more now, which is more evident, I think, is everyone's opinion is different with football. You see it every week. The pundits watch the game, and everyone has they agree on certain bits, but everyone has different opinions on it, and that certainly happens with me. Yeah.
You have a whole new found love for managers, actually, don't you?
I do, yeah. That's why when you ask me what was I like to work with, I'm like, I'm not sure. I'm not. Like, at times I'd want you in my team. I'm not sure at times, and I think that's the alarming thing when you see managers. You can see the ones that everything's going well, and then unfortunately when it's not, you can see the stress managers put themselves under, and it's a different one, right? From players to managers, it's a completely different stress. To players, it's you, and it's you got to look after yourself and be part of a team. You're a manager, you got the whole collective.
You're all right now. Frank's doing really well. You're like, okay.
Look, I'm always on a knife edge. You could win the Champions League, and I'm the typical one that's like, yeah, but what's going to happen the next day, though? You say I'm that person. It's the kind of the Irish mentality in me, where it's like, stay humble, don't get too cocky. I know. We can be positive in a moment, but then I'm straight back down to normality. So I understand what you're saying, though. Suddenly it's like a whole new world.
Yeah,
you know,
completely different.
Is it something you want to do, though? Is it something you kind of want to progress with?
I think everybody would say they want to have a crack at it. I'd like to have a crack at it. Yeah. The question is, would I like to do it at a full-time capacity? That's the biggest thing.
And it's more full-time than being a player.
Yeah, it's completely different, right? And they're all the time, and it's full on. But I think there's only such a small market for it ultimately, and for English coaches, English managers, only a small market. There really is.
And often you only get one go at it.
You only get one go at it. You've seen with Wayne, he's gone for it, with Frank, with Stevie, like that, and they're elite, they're top end English players. So yes, there are many of them, but then you've got a lot of players that played football, want to be the manager, but the opportunities are not there. So that's absolutely fine. I think I'd rather just do it in the non-league. If the opportunity ever come, that's what I think I'll be happy. As much as I'd take if I'd know what pressure still comes on it and it takes time, I think I'll be better in that bit. But I like the one-on-one coaching and all that kind of stuff. I just find I like it. I like helping the boys and the girls, yeah.
You seem like you're in a place where you know yourself and you kind of are just really comfortable with yourself.
That's the biggest thing. That's the biggest thing. I know where I am. I know what I'm capable of doing. I like doing this. I like doing the TV, podcast, and radio and all that. Ultimately, I like coaching the kids. That's what I enjoy the most, yeah.
Charlie, it's been so lovely talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. No problem at all.
I do want to ask, do you think Liverpool are going to win the league, though?
Yes, I do.
I'm
going to put it out there. I am.
At the moment of recording, we're post Arsenal's defeat to West Ham and Liverpool's win against Man City, but midweek, Arsenal at Forest, Liverpool at home to Newcastle. Could all change again.
It could all change again, but I just think Nottingham Forest is a tough place to go, and if Newcastle come to Anfield and perform the way they did on Sunday against Nottingham Forest in the last 20 minutes, I think Liverpool will cause some real big problems. However, they perform well for the first start of the game. I just think at the moment, coming off that game on Sunday, Liverpool really stamped their authority and showed the rest of the league that actually don't talk about injuries. don't do this, and we're the best team, and we deservedly be first place.
Oh, thank you, Joe. That was great. Thank you so much.